Hi everyone, welcome to today's self-help seminar. My name is Susanne Thom, a Los Angeles-based dance medicine physical therapist, and my model, Chelsea Cho. And today's seminar is self-mobilization and releases for our hip and pelvis. The goal of this seminar is simply to give you some tools to use at home to help release gripping and tension in the front of the hips and access more of our turnout. So let's start with the self-assessment test. We're going to do a basic figure 4 movement test. What we do is we're going to lay down on the ground with the left leg straight. Chelsea is going to place her right ankle above her left knee, keeping her left hip down with her left hand. So try not to cheat, everyone. With your left leg, the leg that's straight, make it parallel. Don't let it flop out. Take the right knee and just let it be heavy and just see how low you can go without pushing it. Let it drop. Stay there for a moment, relax into it, and take a guesstimate of how close your knee and thigh is to the floor without your left hip popping up. Just take a feeling there for a second or two, and now switch legs. Simply a rough assessment of your range of motion and flexibility. Your right leg is straight, your left leg figure forward. Keep that right hip down, don't roll into it, and a parallel right leg to make the assessment. And just take note which side is tighter, wherever you feel it. And now we're going to address some of those restrictions that can restrict our turnout. Okay, so from there, let's come on up, and we're actually going to start by sitting horizontally on your foam roller. If you have a smaller foam roller, that's fine. It doesn't matter about the length and size. Chelsea's going to sit on the foam roller, and then she's going to put both her hands behind her. She's going to cross her right leg over her left knee in a figure 4 and rock her body weight slightly onto her right cheek. What we're trying to do here is warm up before we get to the deeper mobilizations. We're warming up the fascia. We're warming up some of the bigger glute muscles, the glute maximus especially, and glute medius and minimus, so that we can access the deeper turnout muscles with the ball later. It's almost impossible to get to your piriformis or some of your smaller turnout muscles if we can't get through the maximus. So the foam rolling here is to warm up the maximus so that we can get deeper. So everyone work around a little bit and see what you can find. When you're ready, everyone's going to switch legs. Rock your weight slightly onto your left hip and work through some tension there. Again, this is our glutes. We're trying to get through our gluteal muscles to the deeper muscles in a moment. So just work there. Usually we would stay here for 1 minute to 2 minutes. So just everyone roll a little bit and see where you find an area of tension and see if you can work that out. Good, a little bit more. Well done. Good. And identify what's worse, your right or your left. So these are our glutes. We're trying to work through the fascia and the glutes so we can get deeper now. So from there, we're going to start our ball releases. Let's step off the foam roller and we are going to lie on our back. And Chelsea's going to pick up her right knee to her chest, up and down, and you're going to feel a tendon that pops out quite clearly. There are multiple hip flexors, but this is the principal area we are interested in when it comes to the tennis ball releases. So everyone identify that tendon, which should be large and thick, on the front towards the outside slightly of our hips. Okay, we are going to take our tennis ball or our lacrosse ball. We're going to place it in our right hip tendon. Good. And now lower yourself slowly. Find the tendon. It should be quite uncomfortable. You may be in an elbow prop and you may want to slowly lower yourself prone. Frog your opposite leg out, just as Chelsea's done with the knee on the floor. Frog it out. And see how low you can get down. You can be in an elbow prop if that's comfortable. If you want to go lower, try to get your chest down, but don't push too hard. Now, all we're going to do is breathe in and breathe out and try to relax that hip tendon. So breathing in and out slowly. With each exhale, you should feel your back relax. As your back relaxes, it's going to sag. And as it sags, it's going to gently press deeper and deeper over that ball. Imagine, if you would, that the ball is warm and your hip muscles are simply going to melt over the front of this tendon. Breathing in and out, tune yourself into the movement of your back and your sacrum and your pelvis. You should always relax on your exhale. We want to do a good 8 to 10 long breaths. Just relax. 1 or 2 more breaths. And then we're very simply going to switch the ball to the opposite side. We're now placing the ball under the left hip flexor tendon. We're going to frog the right leg. And we're going to stay down, taking deep breaths in and out. Let your breath relax your low back and your pelvis and gently melt its way into the hip tendon. For some of us, it's very, very tight. You may be in an elbow prop. For others, you can work your way slowly to prone, but the primary thing is once you've found your position is to relax. Don't roll on the ball. Just stay and breathe. Trigger points, which are very, very tight spots in muscles and tendons, react much better to deep breathing releases than they do to rolling. It's not incorrect to roll here, but it's my preference that you breathe into it. I think you'll get a better result. So everyone do 2 or more long breaths, relaxing on your exhale. And then we're all going to come up for a moment, and Chelsea is going to show us the next 2 positions for the ball. The next muscle we're going to demonstrate will be the piriformis, which lies between the 2 bones on the outside that stick out side to side, the big bumps that stick out, and your sit bone, which you sit on. So if you trace a line, you should be able to find your piriformis right between the middle of that line, right there where Chelsea's got her tennis ball. That is a principal turnout muscle and will be very tight on a lot of us. Then the second spot is called our gluteus maximus. It's at the top towards the outside, under the crest of our pelvis, right there where Chelsea has it. You should be on a muscle here, not a bone when you lie down. So let's demonstrate those 2 releases, Chelsea. We're going to lay down on our back with our knees bent, feet flat. We're going to do our right piriformis first. Take the ball and place it under your right piriformis by sliding your weight slightly to your left. Place the ball and then release your hip muscles over it. And now in that position, the first option is to simply wag your right leg down and up. The left leg remains steady, your pelvis doesn't distort. Keep your pelvis stable and just wag the leg out, slowly pressure on, and up slowly, pressure off. Pressure on, it comes down. Pressure off, it comes up. Pressure on, it comes down. Pressure off. And now Chelsea and I will demonstrate the second way. For those of you that feel this, adequately stay where you are and keep wagging. For those of you that can't really feel it, try placing your knees together and your feet wide as your yoga mat. And some of us will feel it here. Your knees are together, your feet are apart. Now just stay here and breathe, no wagging here. If that's better, then use this position. So a couple more breaths, either in the modified feet out, knees together position, or back where we were wagging. A couple more breaths. And finish up 1 more. Well done. And we're moving now to our gluteus maximus. Chelsea's going to lean towards the left. Take the ball and place it under that higher outside muscle. It's definitely a muscle, not a bone. And we're simply going to keep our feet hip width apart and wag again. If you don't feel it enough, try a slight pelvic tilt, Chelsea's going to wag that right leg on the exhale. Pressure off, pressure on. That's as slow as we need to be doing this. These are very intense releases. Don't go fast and do them with intention. You don't have to wag your leg very long. For some of us, you'll feel a release quite quickly. For other of us, it's going to take a moment. Just breathe into it and keep wagging the leg. 8 to 10 long breaths usually will achieve a release. We're not rolling the ball again. We're simply wagging. Do 2 more breaths, everyone, if you can. Pressure on, pressure off, just like that. And 1 more. You should really feel that now on that right hip. And now we're going to turn our attention to a muscle on the side of our right hip, the gluteus medius. The gluteus medius lies again between the trochanter, which is the bump on the outside right there where Chelsea's indicating, and the iliac crest, the curve of our pelvic bone. So it's a thick, tight, very important muscle when we're standing on one leg. The ball goes right between the two, on your side, slightly forward, very slightly forward of your hip. That's it. We're going to lay down on our side. I'm going to give everyone a warning. This can be incredibly uncomfortable. Stack your legs at 90-90. Chelsea's going to stack her thighs and her shins towards camera. She's going to carefully place the ball. Now slowly lower yourself down to an elbow prop. Now bend your knees a little bit more. And we're just going to stay there for a second. For some of us, we're already feeling it, okay? For those of you who don't, try to work down out of your elbow prop if you can. And we're concentrating on our breath now on lowering our waist. So on the inhale, then the exhale, relax your waist. And see if you can get your waist a little lower to the floor. A couple of breaths there. This is very intense. Your glute medius, while we breathe, your glute medius is the muscle that helps us not sit in our hip. It's used a great deal in our standing leg for adagio and for turning. And if you're working your leg correctly, this should be problematic for you. The good news is if it hurts, that means you're using your leg correctly. One of the other ways we can add for the last few breaths, if you want a little more, is to wag your top leg. Pressure on, pressure off. Pressure on, pressure off. Pressure on, pressure off. We're going to do a couple more breaths, everyone. If you're not wagging, it's already enough. Just breathe and drop your waist and hang out where you are and see if you can get that glute medius to relax. 1 more breath. Everyone catch up. And we're going to switch sides. And again, we're going to do our piriformis first on our back. Chelsea's going to have her knees bent, feet and knees parallel. She's going to place that ball by rolling slightly to her right under her left piriformis. Right, there we are on the outside of our sit bone, but tucked under our cheek. And the first thing we can do for those of us that want to wag the left leg out and in, and out and in. Just breathing, pressure on, pressure off, pressure on, pressure off, good. Pressure on, pressure off. And again, for those of you that find this helpful, stay where you are and keep going. Chelsea's going to again demonstrate the second position, which for some of us is knees together. Feet apart as wide as your yoga mat. Now just stay there. Everyone breathe. You're either wagging or you're in the modification. Just breathe and let that piriformis, our primary turnout muscle, relax. Couple more breaths. Gripping in your turnout muscles will inhibit your ability to turn out. Okay, so we have to release everything. The back of the hip, the front of the hip, and the side of the hip. Well done. We're now taking that ball and we're moving up to our gluteus maximus. Straight up towards slightly to the outside, but on a muscle, not a bone. And all we're going to do is wag. Pressure on, pressure off. The gluteus maximus is primarily a muscle used in jumping. A lot of us don't overuse it in turnout. It does assist a little in turnout, but it's primarily responsible for jumping and for lifting our leg behind us. So we really don't want to grip this muscle when we turn out. We need it to be nice and fresh for jumping. So if we're the kind of dancer that's been perhaps gripping very, very hard to get our last few degrees of turnout, very often our glute max is involved. So we need to release our glute max and see if we can access our turnout better so that the glute max is ready for jumping at the end of class and isn't tired already from gripping. There we go. Chelsea's doing that perfectly. A few more breaths. It should be very uncomfortable. If we're using our hips correctly, this should be problematic. Good. And from there, we're going onto our side for our gluteus medius. So we're going to stack our legs at 90-90. This is very uncomfortable for most of us. Remember, not on a bone, between the iliac crest and the trochanter, in that little area that's kind of nice and meaty. We're going to stack our legs, elbow prop, and that's it. Slowly lower the waist. Don't think about pushing into the ball. Breathe. This is very uncomfortable. And if you're using your standing leg correctly, it should be. It will stop us from sitting into our hips. So, very important muscle. And we're going to breathe into it and try and give it some love. Chelsea's just going to focus on lowering her waist and staying there. If the rest of you can, ease yourself down a little bit, but be careful. And or wag your top leg. Pressure on, pressure off. Try not to rock back out of this position. When it's uncomfortable, a lot of us will ease the discomfort by rolling our pelvis back. So try to do what Chelsea's doing in our pelvis, if it's anything, is in neutral or slightly forward. We don't want to rock back off the ball. The glute medius is a fan-shaped muscle. And when we look at it, you can clearly see this part is the culprit in ballet. Here we go. There we go. Couple more breaths. Use the breath to help yourself. It's a very tough release. Here we go. Very nice. One more big breath and relax. We're going to come off the ball, keeping it handy, but we are now going to come into a kneeling position. So we may want to fold our yoga mat into pieces so we've got something to kneel on. We're all going to kneel in an upright kneeling position with our weight on our right knee and our left leg in a 90-90 position. Now, let me be clear about this stretch. This looks like a stretch that most of us do a version of. This is not a lunge preparation for the splits. It's not that kind of lunge. There's 4 or 5 variations of this. This one is the key to releasing the front of the hip. Everyone is going to stack their right knee directly under their right hip, which is directly under their right shoulder. And that relationship isn't going to change, okay? What we're going to do with our right thigh, we're going to tighten your stomach and squeeze your glutes, causing a pelvic tilt. There we go. You can see Chelsea clearly tilting. And we're going to squeeze our glutes and press into the front of the thigh without moving into that left leg. And hold and release. All right, we're all going to do that together. Tuck your pelvis, squeeze your glute, and press it forward. So a nice straight line. We're going to hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Release and squeeze and tuck. Squeeze. 2, 3, 4, 5. Release. Squeeze and tuck as hard as you can. Squeeze your glute. 2, 3, 4, 5. Release. Well done. And squeeze. 2, 3, 4, 5. Release. And squeeze. You can see that Chelsea's position is not really changing, just the pelvic tilt and a hard glute squeeze. Release. Again, squeeze and press. 2, harder. 3, 4, 5, release. For the last few, squeeze as hard as you can. Squeeze, press. You should feel the sensation on the outside and front of the thigh, like a tightness or even a burning, but some deep sensation there. And release. Squeeze and press. 2, 3, 4, 5, release. Squeeze and press. Everyone together. 4, 5, release. Now we're all going to do 10 counts together as hard as you possibly can. Don't lunge, just squeeze and press. Ready? Squeeze our glute, tuck your pelvis, and hold it. 2, 3, squeeze your glute. 5, squeeze. 6, a little harder. 7, 8, the sensations on the front, just where Chelsea indicated. And 10, relax. Now we're going to switch legs. So this area that we're releasing is part of the hip flexor group. But one of those muscles is the TFL, tensor fascia lata. Very often the culprit in gripping of our hip. Here we go. Stack the hip over the knee, shoulder over the hip, straight line. Tucking the tailbone under, squeeze your glutes and press. 2, 3, 4, 5. Release. Now really squeeze your glutes. Ready, everybody? Squeeze and press. 2, 3, 4, 5. Release. 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 Squeeze as hard as you possibly can. 2, 3, 4, 5. Release. And now the last time, 10 counts. Go. Squeeze and press. And hold it for 2. A little harder for 3. Really press the glutes. 5, 6, squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. 8, 9, squeeze it. 10, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Well done. And now what we're going to do is we're going to grab our foam roller and we're going to roll our thighs. So we could foam roll our thighs at the beginning, or we could foam roll our thighs at the end, whichever you prefer. We are specifically, though, going to foam roll the front of the thigh in 3 distinct positions. We're going to do it in parallel. Chelsea's going to place them down, her thighs on the roller. We're going to keep a tight stomach, no sagging in your back, an elbow plank. And we're going to lift the feet up, straight legs in parallel, point the feet and roll the front of the thigh. From the top of the hip crease down to just above the kneecap. Small, intentional movements. We are looking for areas of discomfort or pain, and we're going to roll them out. So it's like a search and destroy. Chelsea's slowly rolling in parallel up and down her thigh in small increments till she finds a hot spot. Now, if you've already found something, let's everybody stay there and breathe. So roll or breathe. If you're still looking, find a spot. Everybody breathe. And you want to find about 5 breaths here and see if you can let that tension melt away. The reason that we roll in parallel and turned out and turned in is because our quadricep, our thigh muscle, is 4 distinct muscles. And on top of that, we have a number of other muscles crossing the hip and crossing the knee. So it's really important that we address every single part of our thigh in order to release our hip flexors and relax our thighs so that we can then have the freedom to turn out. So Chelsea's going to keep rolling now and looking for other spots, explore around. Now, this should be pretty uncomfortable. People always ask me how uncomfortable. Comfortably uncomfortable. You should be able to speak, but not to chit-chat. Do it with intention. We're not just skimming over the skin. You want to roll, almost like you've got cookie dough that's been in the fridge, and roll it out, okay? Normally we would go for at least a minimum of 90 seconds, up to 3 minutes, depending on how much kind of time you have. If you do this before class, don't do too much. I'd say 60 to 90 seconds in each position and then move on. Now, we're going to pick our legs up and put them back down, turned out. So don't just rotate the thigh, pick it up and place it down so you don't just get skin shear. We're going to roll in a turned out position, and there should be plenty of discomfort here. So if we're using our thighs correctly in ballet, you should be able to feel this. Here we go. We're looking for some areas of discomfort or tightness, and we're going to roll them out. So roll and search around like slightly cold cookie dough, small increments with intention. Tight stomach, nice flat back. We're using our arms, and we're definitely going to find some things in here. If you're using your legs correctly and pulling up as we should at bar, you should find a lot of discomfort in here. So see if you can find some areas, make a note, and also compare your right and left legs. Which one's worse? Does that make sense to you? Find some spots, and then if you guys have something, stay there and breathe. Just breathe through it and try and relax the area. And again, we're trying to cover all the muscles towards the inside that wrap around our thighs, some of which cross the hip. So they need a lot of attention, a lot of love to let go. But rolling at night, you can roll longer, and it's also good for post-workout and post-ballet stiffness and soreness so that you have fresher legs the next day. So briefly during the day and for prolonged periods at night is what I like. There we go. All the way through the thigh. And when we're ready, we're going to pick up our thighs and we are going to turn in. Now, turning in is awkward for most of us. It's something we avoid or simply can't do in ballet, but go ahead and turn in. Pick your thighs up and pigeon toe and see what you can find. And again, there should be plenty of areas of discomfort here. So search around, see what you can find, and address the hottest spots you can find. So we're rolling and we're searching. We're keeping a tight tummy. Our back is not hyperextended, using our arms and finding a lot. Again, if we're using our thighs correctly in our ballet, we should find a lot of discomfort here. So we're not just interested in our quadricep, we're interested in a number of muscles crossing the thigh from the hip and then crossing the knee. So everything gets a little bit of love. Search around, find some spots, and stay there. And we're just going to breathe. And always your exhale is your treatment, right? Your inhale, your exhale is where you get the release with the breath. That's it. Searching around from the top of the crease of the thigh all the way to just above the kneecap. As with the other things we've covered, we never, ever want to go over a bony prominence. So while we're finishing up on that, we all know what's coming next is the dreaded IT band. So the dreaded IT band runs down the side of our leg. It's called the iliotibial band, meaning it runs from the ilium, the crest of the pelvis, across our hip joint and past our knee joint. It is responsible for a lot of grief and gripping and soreness in the knee as well as the outside of the hip. Chelsea's going to demonstrate most of our least favorite rolling here. And she's going to go over the roller using her arms in an elbow prop. And we're going to start below that greater trochanter. So off the bone, we're going to bend the top leg to manipulate it and the bottom leg is straight. Everyone has done a version of this. So go very slowly and breathe into it. This is pretty uncomfortable for most of us. Make sure we don't go over any bony prominences in small increments. Working from the top of the outside of the thigh, slowly down towards your knee, but don't cross the knee joint. So the iliotibial band, the ITB, gives us lots and lots of problems because it's an area that again crosses over the pelvis, is not very well vascularized. It's very poor blood flow. There's more muscle towards the front of the seam of your pants than there are towards the back. So you can do a little bit of rotation of your body just to find where you need to be. Everyone's anatomy is different. So figure that out by using your pelvis and your arms if you need to rotate slightly forward to the middle or slightly back, but it should be very uncomfortable. Let's work there for a moment, breathe into it. And if you want to find a spot to stay on, go ahead and stay there. Some of us are going to have a lot of tension closer to the hip. Others of us are going to have most of our tension in the middle of the fibers. And some of us are going to have tension down towards the knee, which can in some cases give a lot of knee pain when we try to turn out. So address everything all the way up and down. And again, before class, I would do probably a minute. After class and in the evening, 2 to 3 minutes on each side. Good. And with that, we're going to draw our attention now to the left side. The exact same mechanism. So Chelsea's going to place it below the bone. She's going to get in an elbow prop and she's going to start using her left leg to manipulate that roller and measure how much pressure she can tolerate. It always feels pretty tough for most of us. Look out for bruising. Redness is okay, and bruising isn't a negative. Some of us bruise very easily. It's just not desirable because then we can't work with that tissue anymore for a few days. So try not to go to the point of bruising. Just up and down, nice and easy. Use your breath to modulate the pressure and work your way down the muscle. From the top to the bottom, and identify areas of discomfort or grittiness, tenderness, crunchies, and don't go over the knee joint. This is a very important release with everything else to get the whole of the side, the front, and the back of the hip to let go. Good, well done. Good. Now the very last thing we're going to return to is our hip flexor release over our ball. Why is that? The reason I like to do this again is because that's the primary area that we started with and that gives us most of our tension. And before we do our retest, let's go back down on our right hip with our right leg straight, our left leg in frog. And for those of you, identify the tendon. It's very thick and fat towards the outside front of our right hip, frogging our left leg to drop the weight onto the hip and either in an elbow prop or prone. Now, breathing in and out, and with the breath, relax your low back into a sag and allow the front of your hip to relax. Completely relax. Breathing deeply, using the exhale for the treatment portion. And imagine your low back just sagging on your exhale. The front of your hip is heavy and it's melting over the ball. It should be a little easier than the first time around. 5 to 8 low, strong breaths. On the exhale, sag your back. Don't fight it, just try and relax. Relax the rest of your body completely. And we're not rolling, we're just releasing. Good, one more breath, everyone. Relax. And switch sides. So we're tucking that ball under our left hip flexor, just like Chelsea. Frog the opposite leg, shifts the weight to our left hip flexor, and she's going to relax. Inhale into your back, exhale, sag your pelvis. Inhale, exhale, release. That's it. Inhale, exhale, release the tension. We're all going to just stay here and breathe. A few more breaths, then we're going to retest, and then we'll do a review of the exercises. So a couple more breaths, and again, we should have taken note now. Where do I feel most of my discomfort? Why do I think that is? Are my legs symmetrical? Good. 2 more breaths. And very slowly, we're going to come up and retest. So we're going back to our initial test, laying on the floor in a modified figure 4. Chelsea is going to straighten her left leg out. Her right leg is going to bend with her right ankle above the left knee. And now, there we are, good. And we're holding our left hip down, so we can't cheat, everyone, okay? Our left leg's in parallel, and if you relax, you should see, and Chelsea's quite clearly gotten quite a bit of range of motion there. You feel that, Chelsea? Good, fantastic. Everyone just relax and take an honest assessment. That by no means is everything we can do for our hips. It's just a little bit of work, but we've got some results. Let's switch legs now. The right leg is straight, in parallel, everyone, for the test. Hold the right hip down, don't cheat. Take a couple of breaths, let that left leg find its way down. Relax. Don't roll your pelvis. Take an assessment. You don't have to measure it. You can feel it. You can see it. Well done, everyone. And come on up to sit, and let's review our order. Okay, so to start, we start with our foam roller. We sat on it in a figure 4 and released both the right and the left buttock cheek, okay? Then from there, we went to our tennis ball releases, or lacrosse ball, and we did number 1, the hip flexor, frogging the opposite leg. We did our piriformis in the bullseye of our buttock in the back, lying on our back, knees bent. Wag the leg or pull the knees together, feet apart. We moved it up towards the outside to the glute maximus with our knees bent, feet on the floor, hip width apart, and we just wagged the leg that the ball was under. Okay, we did the exact same thing to the opposite side, and then we do our glute medius on the side. We stack our legs at 90-90 in front of our body. We lay down on our side in an elbow prop and slowly try to work our way down. Breathing into our waistline, dropping it as close to the floor as we go. If that's not enough, we go ahead and wag our top leg. All of these are 8 to 10, perhaps 12 slow breaths. We then came into an upright kneeling position on our yoga mat. And what we did was a very simple 90-90 lunge position. It's not a preparation for the splits. Our knee on our working side is stacked under our hip which is stacked under our shoulder. We maintain the position and simply pelvic tilt, squeeze our glute, and press. Felt on the front and side of the hip, big release for the TFL. 15 or so repetitions, squeezing and holding for 5. Repeat to the opposite side. We're then going to get down and we're going to roll our thighs in parallel. In, turn out, in, turned in, and then we're going to repeat finally our hip flexor release with our ball, 8 to 10 breaths on the right with the other leg frogged, 8 to 10 breaths on the left with the other leg frogged, and then we're going to repeat our figure 4 test with one leg straight, the other leg over, and let's assess. And that's it for today. Thanks everyone for coming. I hope you've got some information you can take home, and we'll see you in the next seminar.